thing. But we are 3 minutes in, and I'm so grateful to have all of you here, whether you're new to this space or you've been coming for a few years. We're just so happy to have you on our Friday Journeys of Growth and Belonging gatherings. Today we have a very special session. Every session is special, but this one's special because it's for a couple of reasons. First, because it's my first time co-hosting with Jeff, not officially a part of the design learning team, but yet still here with me as my partner in crime. So thank you, Jeff, for being here. And then second, because we have the wonderful Cara Wilson with us today. So Cara, what was that song and why did you choose it?
That song is called Home. What's the band, Maya? It's Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is just something about that song that I just love. I blast it on repeat. I never get sick of it. It's like happy and joyful, and I love it.
Love it. Well, I'm just glad that you picked that song because as you guys could all see, I was singing it. And yeah, I'll be singing it for the rest of the day today too. Um, it is a belonging song, Mandy. That's a great point. So in the spirit of the way that we convene here and how we'd like to model in the world, we will start with connection before content. So before we dive into Kara's amazing journey, we're going to go into breakout rooms of 3 to 4 people around the question, why was it important for you to be here today? Um, no advice, deep listening, and we have some people still coming in, so there might be some folks who enter your breakout room a couple minutes after you do. So if that's the case, smile, say hi, welcome, and we'll be in here for about 10 minutes.
When we came back, I noticed Gary Peterson was frozen for a moment like this, very arms up and joyful. So that was a nice way to come into the room.
Yeah, the way that the Zoom yank pulls us back in catches us in all kinds of freeze forms. So it's a nice when the different reactions, smiles or expressions. So beautiful. So, all right. Well, if it's for me, never enough time as we connect with each other in the small groups for as we go through. So just love to hear from a few of you. If you want to raise your physical hand or your electronic hand, just kind of or open your mic. Just like to hear from a few folks. What struck you about that conversation that you just had? With your breakouts. Bob, thanks for the hand.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. Absolutely.
So a friend of mine gave me this link that I still mentor. He lived in Summit, New Jersey. And Peter, I did your program, Flawless Consulting. Good to see you. So I'm here because I wanted to be here, and I've worked with Peter back in the day, and you're looking great, Peter. And I read your book, Community. I've made a plug for it. I also do work with Werner Erhard, and I love that you mentioned Werner in the comments for this. But anyway, I'm here, and I dated myself, right?
In anything particular, Bob, that struck you from the conversation in your small group?
Yeah, Cara was in there, and I'm looking forward to her sharing about her journey, whatever that is.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bob. Good to
Yeah.
have you here. Gary.
Thank you. Great being here.
Yeah, since I had my hands waving in the air, there was two of us in a small group, and it turns out we have been connected actually for really some time, and in some workshops with a couple of people, Peter and Angel's area, and then moved us a long time ago. We're both no spring chickens here, but what struck me is how much we're both still learning and growing, and how much we're still in the game, and just how engaged we remain. And that really struck me, and it feels really good.
Beautiful. Thanks, Gary. Wendy.
I was in a small group with Gary and Cheryl, and what I learned is that this engagement itself is sort of addictive, and that once people make it to one, they're putting it on their calendars and trying to make sure that it will be able to come again and again, because people feel uplifted, connected, and really it's been successful at creating a community here. And we, all three of us, had a Singaporean experience. Cheryl's pretty new, moving to the Seattle area from Singapore. And then Gary talked about how he had spent many times in Singapore. And I also had the delightful experience to be there once too. So you never know the things that are going to connect you. So it was really a wonderful sense of connection there.
Great connection. Absolutely, Wendy. Thank you. John.
My group was fun in that I was the only one that had been to one of these before. Uh, uh, Rajiv has had some connection to Peter Block, and then Carrie had some connection to Cara. And then they're like, yep, that's usually why somebody shows up. They're either connected to Peter some way and just love his work, or they have a connection to the speaker.
Yep.
And so it was fun to say, yeah, this is sort of how this rolls. And I show up every month. I don't even know what the topic is. I'll still show up because they're life-giving and fun. And I've made friends here that have friendships that have lasted and been fruitful and everything else. So that was fun.
Beautiful. Thanks, John. Just as a reminder that the power of invitation, how people show up. I come across a link or I get a personal invitation, or however we get here, invitation is powerful. So, and encourage you to continue to invite folks in your network, friends, family, and others to continue to join us as we move forward. So beautiful. All right. Well, why don't we move into talking and hearing some of Cara's stories. So welcome, Cara. What we've learned in the past is we are not going to spotlight Cara. If you want to change your own view on your screen, you can do that in the top right-hand side of your corner for a speaker view. But we want to keep the feeling of full community to have that choice as we go through here. So you can change that view as we kind of move forward. So, Cara, it is awesome to welcome you to the Storyteller. I am proud and pleased to call Cara a dear friend as well as a colleague from the past. I would say we go way back, and we do go way back. But Cara has been um, had so many impacts, starting with young kids and outward bound programs in the mountains as a skier and a hiker, through organizational development and coaching. We first came in contact with each other at Cleveland Clinic in the healthcare world. So I'm proud to say she was probably the best person I ever hired in my life to work in the group. And I still stand by that car. I have not changed that piece. And I actually finally, a year or so ago, convinced her to join the Design Learning Consultant group as well, too. And that had been a 5-year journey. So a lot of personal things there, too. And I know there's a lot about your story I don't know for sure. And I think these folks are going to be very gifted by whatever you have to share with us. So it is great. Thank you for agreeing to be here with us and your journey. You've been internal organizations, large organizations, and small, and also as the external consultant, coach, friend, and co-learner. So with that, Ms. Cara, thank you for being here and joining us. So as we move into the questionings, the first question, just to kind of get some things rolling, why did you choose to be on this journey that you're on?
I don't feel like I did choose it. Yeah, what I do choose is learning and kind of continuing to inspect myself and what I'm learning and the meaning that I make out of life.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you did choose to be on this journey, what were some of the elements that impacted your choices along the way?
Yeah. Okay. I feel compelled to make to have a trigger warning statement here. So if the following things upset you, this talk might not be for you. Eating disorders, psychedelic drugs, autism, cursing, crying. That last one will most likely take place. So if any of those things are difficult for you, I'm just giving you your out now. And it feels like it's always interesting to feel like, where do you start your story, you know? And I think I'd like to start with my parents. My dad was raised in rural South Carolina. He was first in his family tree to graduate from high school. My mom was raised in Pennsylvania, and she had a mother who was mentally ill for most of her life and in and out of hospitals. So she mostly raised herself. And when my parents got together, their strategy was like, let's just keep everything contained in this much space. We won't let things get better than this, and we won't let things get worse than this. And if we can do that, we'll be okay. And they didn't have a ton of skills, but they worked to give us a good life. And I was the kind of kid who, uh, you know, my mom would come and pick me up at school or at daycare, and all the kids would be laid out neatly on their cots, and Cara's cot would be down at the end of the hall, and I would be jumping up and down on the cot. I got in all kinds of trouble in school. I got in detention. I was a troublemaker, and I also got really stellar grades. So somehow I moved through this system without getting clocked in any way, because I was able to perform in the ways that I was supposed to perform, in addition to all these behaviors that were maybe considered inappropriate. Um, I I felt very early on that something was deeply wrong with me. Something was deeply wrong or bad about me. And I didn't know what it was, but I decided early that I should just start watching other humans to figure out how you're supposed to be in the world. And so I would think about, what characteristics did good humans have? Like, what does it take to be a good human? And I can remember watching, like, my friend Iris, who was so good at talking to strangers, and thinking, how does she do that? What does she do? And then I would try that behavior on, you know, like a costume. And I would watch someone else who was kind and friendly, and I would say, how do kind and friendly people act? And it was like I was taking notes and then just mimicking the behaviors that would work for me. Um, so I was very deeply interested in human behavior from a very young age. You could say I was obsessed with it. I went to summer camp in the San Juan Islands, Camp Arcila, when I was 9 years old, and I ended up spending 14 summers there. And I think it was a really pivotal thing for me, because um, it was the first time I felt seen by adults in my life, by older people who told me that I mattered and that I was a worthwhile human. It was a really incredible thing for me to have every summer to go to. They also encouraged me to think about my values and what I cared about. And they would sit us down and ask us questions about what we valued and why. And when I got too old to be a camper there. And so I started working there, because I just wasn't willing to give that place up. And so I worked there all the way through college, and a little bit beyond. And it was this really unique environment, in that the 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 cool thing to do there was to be really great at working with kids. It was to give them an incredible experience, and to be really skillful, and to provide the kind of environment that would just blow kids' minds. And so I had all these great role models, and I developed, that's where I learned a work ethic, and it's where I learned, you know, adults are just grown-up kids. So all the kid wrangling skills I still use to this day in my coaching practice. I think one of the ways I tried to solve for my challenge, this feeling of like that something's wrong, was to think that maybe I needed to change my physical body, that maybe my physical body wasn't the right size. And if I could shrink it and be smaller in the world, then I would feel better, and I would feel more like I fit in. And that led to a decades-long eating disorder. And it also led to me getting really kind of obsessed with physical strength, because I had this story that was, well, if I'm going to be chubby, at least I could be tough and chubby. And so I would get these jobs. I would be like, what job does a tough person have? And I would look around, and it was like, oh, it's being a professional ski patroller. And I would be like, I'm going to get that job. And then that will mean that I'm tough. And I would get that job and I would fill my backpack with dynamite every morning and start avalanches on the ski slopes before the ski area opened. And then I was like, I still don't feel tough. And so I was never able to meet my own bar or to solve for this feeling of what is happening with me. Kind of constantly hiding feelings and responses within me that I knew weren't appropriate. I applied to a graduate school called the Leadership Institute of Seattle, which maybe you've heard of. It's a really phenomenal school. And the gist of the school is if you're going to go into organizations and help them, you need to really know what your own shit is that you're bringing with you. And that means your mother and your family, right? And I can remember talking to the admissions counselor there and her saying, how do you think your family has influenced your leadership style? And my answer was, oh, I don't think they have actually. And she just looked at me and was like, well, good luck with that. And she ended up letting me into school anyway. But that was a really incredible experience for me of starting to learn about family systems and how I came to be the person that I was in the world. I met a woman in grad school and I fell in love with a woman, and that was a whole life-changing thing to move yourself from the center of how culture is designed to the outside and experience a lot of people being unhappy with that. And I thought, oh, I'm gay. That's what it is. That's what this feeling is. And I just hadn't figured it out. So I kept thinking that I had like solved for it. Spoiler alert, that also wasn't it. She was a therapist, and she said to me, you know, you're ADHD, right? And I was like, what? No, what? And at this time I was 30 years old. So I went to a psychiatrist. I got an ADHD diagnosis, and that was interesting and helpful, and it unlocked some things for me. It kind of helped me understand school and the like bouncing on the cot when all the other kids were napping, but it didn't solve the whole puzzle. And in 2011, I was driving through Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and we stopped to get gas, and I saw a poster for free puppies on the door of the gas station, and I got a puppy. My dog, his name was Milo. He was 8 weeks old, and that dog is the most significant relationship I've had in my life. He was an animal that taught me about attunement in a way that I had never experienced before. And he taught me about unconditional love, also in a way that I'd never experienced before. And I felt connected to him in a way that I really struggled to be connected to humans. I'd have him for 14 years. It was really amazing. He was an amazing animal. And so he moved with me around the country as I like pursued this career of organizational development and coaching and working with people. And so it's like this obsession with people and getting good at working with people was really me trying to solve my own mystery, you know. And I talked my way in. I met Jeff at the Cleveland Clinic. That was like 2012 arena. And one thing I've learned is that I can be plopped into just about any environment and I'll be okay. I can adjust and join with people because of this kind of obsessive watching of behavior, right? In 2016, I really wanted to move back home to Seattle, which is where I'm from, and I talked my way into a job as an embedded coach for the engineering team at Tableau Software. And I had never worked in software. I had never worked with engineers. And it was a wild experience for me. And learning about their brains and learning to build relationships with a different kind of brain was a really great education for me. And I afterwards was so curious. I was like, oh, I seem to be good with engineers, with this population, engineers. And then I was like, wait a minute, engineers, a lot of them are neurodivergent. And then I thought I should learn more about neurodivergence so that I can be a better coach. That's why I should learn more about it. And then I started this journey of learning about mostly learning about autism. And the way I did this was I watched TikToks and I read books and I listened to podcasts and I started a list on my phone of characteristics of autism that I had observed in myself. Meanwhile, I'm starting my own coaching practice and I have just profound doubts about it. Everyone in my world is telling me that I can do it and that I have what it takes and that it was like this situation where all the data was there to tell me that I could do it, but I couldn't believe myself. And one of my friends from grad school, who, by this time has been a therapist for 25 years, said, I'd really like to help you with that with psychedelics. And so I did a guided psychedelic journey with her in 2023, I guess. And it was a life-changing experience where I got to see myself the way other people see me. And it just helped me address the doubt. It was really an incredibly powerful thing. I can't say enough good things about that. And then my list of autism traits got to be 2.5 pages long, themed, of course, 2.5 pages themed. And I said, maybe this is worth checking out. Maybe I'm onto something here now that I'm at 2.5 pages. And I went to an assessor. I took my list to an assessor and I paid for a consult and I brought my list in and they said, good job. You figured yourself out. And that would start so that was November of 2024. So less than a year ago. In December, my dog died. And it was devastating to me. And I thought I knew everything that he did for me in my life. But when he was gone, I learned so much more about what he had done for me. And what he had done for me was help me regulate my nervous system. And it was incredibly difficult for him to be gone. And it was incredibly difficult for me to be going through this kind of new awareness without him. And then I'm running a business. I'm trying to start a business. And I had all this success. Like my first year, I had incredible success in a way that I said yes to too many things, got myself overcommitted, like completely fried out. And didn't quite know how to manage it all. And so I'm having this like existential burnout that was pretty incredible where I now know this is called autistic burnout. Your nervous system basically just hits a lifetime wall and is done. And so things start bothering you that never did before. And it's terrifying. My skills felt like they regressed. I had nowhere near the capacity that I used to have. And it's been the hardest year of my life. And and it's the biggest unlock because now I understand what the thing was that I was searching for my whole life that felt like something was wrong. Now I'm like, oh, it's actually just, this is neurology. This is my neurology. I'm wired differently. And now I have all these skills to adapt and to deal with the neurotypical world. And I'm learning how to deal with my own self and what I need. And it's a wild journey. And I've had a real crisis of it's just an existential crisis, I think, of like all these skills that I learned that I've been using to help other people were born kind of out of trauma, out of my need to try to figure out how to survive in this world. And so, do I even want to do this work anymore? Because this feels painful to me. And so it's been a big relief to have this information. It's also huge grief. I have an incredible husband who is just walking the path with me, and we're having to kind of renegotiate what our relationship looks like because I am different than I used to be and I need different things now. And I have an incredible friend in my friend Megan, who is going through the same thing as me at pretty much the same time, and we just are helping each other through it and figuring it out, and we're trying to turn it into something creative that we can use in our business that can be helpful. That's the short answer.
Uh, beautiful, beautiful. It's just so much there, Cara. Thanks for the vulnerability. I am curious. You talked about earlier on about, feeling tough. How or has your definition of tough shifted in your journey?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think tough is not so important to me anymore. Like, kind is important. Being kinder to myself is important. I was just ruthless to myself for my whole life. And my friends who know me know this about me. I was just ruthless. And I thought that was the only way to be, was to just like command myself into things. And now uh and I guess I feel tough surviving it and making it through it. But it's not a high value for me anymore. And I miss the drive that I used to have, like especially physically, because I did a lot of tough shit, like physically trying to prove something. And there is a part of me that misses that, but I don't have it anymore.
Hmm. So, as well as through this incredible journey you've been on and are still on, Cara, y- where did you find senses of belonging? That's kind of a piece that we talk about, and I heard elements in your story about when you did and you didn't. But what can you share about your experiences with belonging?
It's been tricky because I feel like I find acceptance in most groups, and yet it has been kind of acceptance for what I have, for like the mask that I wear. And so I'm still trying to figure out. I have been introduced to many other autistic folks through this last year. There's a woman who has the same name as me on LinkedIn. Her name is Cara Jean Wilson. She's an autistic leadership coach. And she found me on LinkedIn and we were like, "What? Who are you?" And we've actually become friends and we talk, and she's just there for hearing the process of figuring all this out, and that is incredibly helpful. Like people who've been on your path and have room to listen and hear it, that's really important to me. And I feel like I use my experience in life to create belonging for other people. I know how to do it. I know how to do it with groups. I know how to do it with teams. It's a little more elusive for me.
And Cara, what continues to surprise you as I know it's all surprising.
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah. What continues to surprise you as you
Oh God, the best one is that I really thought I was like a secret asshole. Is the way that I put it, because I would have these I have these responses. The story I told the assessor is about like walking out of the house with my husband to walk Milo and him saying, "Hey, can you go to the backyard and grab his harness?" And me getting instantly angry and thinking I'm already walking out the front door. And this cognitive rigidity that I have wanted to be different for my whole life, that I know how to, in that moment, I know how to like fix your face, don't say anything, just do the thing. And now I'm like, this is my neurology, this is my wiring. I'm not a secret asshole or a public asshole. I'm neither one. I'm neither one. And that has been like the loveliest surprise and gift.
Yeah. You're not certainly not a public asshole. I can attest to that. And what does success look like for you? And what is your role in getting you there or getting us there as a collective?
Beyond survival, which sometimes it feels really hard right now, but turning this into something that I can use to help people is the way that I make meaning of it. And that's what success looks like. And wanting and advocating for inclusive environments for all kinds of brains. I think there's especially a lot of women out there who got missed because I was meeting all the markers and getting good grades. I never got clocked. And I think that happened. The criteria for autism is based on young boys. So if you're a woman or a person of color, you easily can slip through all of that. And I think we just keep running into people who are in the same thing as me. And I just want to be helpful and of service to people because it's huge.
Yeah, I'm curious, Cara, you mentioned earlier about solving your own mystery.
Yeah.
Where are you at with the mystery now? Is there still mystery? How is that landing with you as far as
Yeah.
solving your own mystery?
No, it feels like the greatest unlock. And I'm going back and looking. You kind of have to I have to relive my life through this lens and it makes more sense. And then I look at my family and I think about where is there autism in my family that we also didn't know, and where was I interpreting maybe things differently than I could be in that way. It's a lot less mystery now, and now the mystery is getting to know myself without all of the things that I've tried on to be socially acceptable. That's the new one, but it feels less daunting.
Beautiful. All right. Well, so much there, Cara, and thanks again for everything you've shared and learned and been with us. So, why don't we we'll move into our back into our breakouts. And basically what we'll do in these breakouts is to just have a discussion about what struck you about Cara's story. As we'll have a chance to spend some time there in the small group, then we'll come back together and interact with each other. It's not a Q&A. I hate that word Q&A. We'll interact and belong and convene when we come back together. But what about 10 minutes or so, Maya, in the breakouts? Is that what we're going to have for them? 10 to 12?
Yeah, we'll do about 10 minutes.
Just what struck you? Then when we come back, we'll have a chance. If you do want to make any comments or thoughts, questions, Cara or anybody else in the group, have a chance to do that as far as, what struck you about Cara's story. And then we'll come back and convene as a big group.
All right. You're muted, but I could read your lips.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button and came back faster.
Make it red.
Betsy, you left us in suspense.
I know I did, but it's almost over. I have a colleague named Laura West who does coaching and marketing, joyful marketing, and she her twist is that and I'm trying to think what she calls it now, but it's people who are highly attuned. Maybe that's what she calls it now. And we all, you know, going through corporate and stuff felt different because we just saw the world differently. We could feel and see things that others couldn't see and feel. And so that has explained a lot to me. You know, you're trying to fit in and you don't actually. So that's what connected me with Cara's story. Cara, it's not at all as oh deep as yours. There's enough there that I kind of get it a little bit.
Betsy. So as we all come back, welcome back, everyone. Would you open up the space? We can talk about what struck you about the conversation you had in your breakout rooms, or what struck you about this journey that Cara shared with us today. And like Jeff said, not necessarily a Q&A, but if you do have questions for Cara, feel free to ask. Again, you can just unmute, raise your real hand.
I got
Virtual.
one. You started off with what makes a good human. What struck me is that it sounds like you spent a lot of time figuring that out, and there's been some ahas along the way. So what struck me is kind of struck me about how far you've come with that, and maybe how far we all have to go. And what does it mean for us each to be a good human? So
Yeah, thanks. One of the things that's kind of perplexing to me is that I have been like, if I'm just performing this set of behaviors that I've observed in the world, am I really a good human? Because it doesn't feel like it's me necessarily. It feels like it's me performing good humanness, if that makes sense. But I'm starting to kind of be like, it's okay. That's who I that is who I am. What I'm performing is who I am. But it's been a wild thing.
thank you.
Cara, hi, friends. In our small group, Rajiv brought up the power of labels. And you really spoke to that and how helpful and how hurtful they can be. And that was really interesting context for me.
And Ryan had a quote that might be useful.
How did you know I was going to put that in there? It's
I'm
from
highly attuned.
yeah, it was from Robert Irwin, a conceptual artist. Is seeing is forgetting the name of the thing you see.
Mm.
And what does it mean to be really seen? You know, without those labels and yeah. So labels obviously came up in our conversation too. Really interesting.
Yeah, just to add to what Carrie mentions, I was just noticing how helpful it was to Cara over the years to, at different points to find a label. It's like, oh, I'm lesbian. Oh, I have ADHD. Oh, I have autism. Oh, I have autism burnout. And just I was reflecting on how clearly from your telling of the story, having a label made such an impact, a sort of a positive impact. And at the same time, these labels makes me concerned. For example, you pointed out that autism is diagnosed more from a boy's perspective. I forget exactly the words you used. But it's like, as I understand it, it's a spectrum. So presumably we're all on the spectrum someplace. And so what is the meaning of the label? But also more underlying it all, why are these labels so powerful? Shouldn't we design our school system so that almost everybody can thrive? And what would it mean to design a school system? Likewise, as we've come to appreciate, there's many more variations than gay and straight. And so again, what do these labels mean anymore? And why are we find ourselves finding the labels so helpful? So it was questions as opposed to a point of view that your story and your use of labels raised to me.
Yeah, we had some very rich discussion in our group about recognizing the value of being the unique combination of all the things that you are, that you're connected to, but no one label or no one membership in a group or no one role or ability to perform a task is the whole of what defines you. And your needs will be unique. Like Cara, I really want to follow up with you because I have good evidence that I have some ADHD, and I've always thought I sort of feel like I have some autism traits too. But then I was like, can you do that both at once?
Yes,
So,
turns out.
obviously, yes. So I think it'd be very fun to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But realizing, yeah, I need to do certain things to manage my brain that may be very different than what other people need. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If it's what I need to be show up as the best version of me, that's okay. I still have value. The fact that I have such a interestingly structured brain means I can do some things that other people can't do, even though I have to work much harder to help keep it on track and deal with things that other people don't have to deal with. So it's not like a better or worse. It's like, okay, it's a different gift.
And it's one that society's not necessarily designed for. I think that's where the friction comes, is that our society is not necessarily designed for all kinds of brains.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Someone who's the mother of an ADHD son and maybe daughter and probably me, the power of putting all of this in the context of creating communities of belonging, and seeing, how much, as John was saying, we each need to be befriending and curious and understanding what we need to show up fully. But it's so easy to stigmatize and get isolated and reinforce that ruthless voice, Cara, that you talked about. And I see in my son the gift he has for creating community, and community that is articulate and recognizes and talks about neurodivergence in just the most beautiful way, and not as a problem, but as a constellation. And I just see how important how healing that is, to spend a lifetime getting the vibe that you're different, and being able to be in community where you're fully accepted for who you are and celebrated. So you had me in tears a number of times about your journey, and also the fact that it is a journey means you didn't get stuck at any one place. So you're continuing to unlock and make available your special medicine.
Thank you.
Appreciated it.
Beautiful. Beverly, you had your hand up a minute ago. Is it still, say something, Beverly, and we'll go to Gary?
Yeah. Cara, first, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story. I also had some tears multiple times. What struck me was your comment about this being the hardest year of your life. And just for me, the wondering about how hard it was in all of those previous years. So if that was the hardest year of your life, maybe it was the culmination of the hardest years, and it was the biggest unlock. Just how hard it was to put on that mask for all those years. And then to have, yes, trauma this past year for yourself, but within that came this amazing release and opportunity. And that to me is just an awakening of that can happen to any of us in our life journey, doesn't have to happen when we're 20 and starting out. It can happen as we're nearing, the end of the work years and so forth. So thank you for that. I appreciated that perspective.
Everything. Gary?
Thanks for your story, Cara. I have my own version. I got put in a lot of boxes a long time ago, but I didn't stay there either. I think we're neurologically structured. Our brain doesn't work in HD. We create categories to drop things in, makes it easier for us to process the world. Then we build structures that are also made of categories, so that we make sense by segmenting and segregating, and it's a pattern that we have. But to not stay in those. And Peter talks a lot about gifts. For myself, I came to learn that those differences are the gifts that provide different perspectives. But as I am much farther down the road now, and I continue, and the journey is to wholeness. The journey is to not be in any of those boxes, but to be in all of them together as who I am. And I think I've done a lot of work in that regard. And I don't know. My dad used to say, "I don't really understand you. Can you at least be useful as a human being?" So I've tried to fulfill that. But that's the journey through all of those labels and boxes and categories and departments and divisions, into the wholeness of myself. But thank you for your story very much.
Thanks, Gary. Diane?
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And the thing that resonated deeply with me was the effort to solve the mystery of myself. And I think about why I've been drawn to organization development and other things like that. It has been that for me and other people I talk with. And I think I've come to know that those traumas and hard parts it's to create these unique skills that we all have through the forge or the crucible. And just, even hearing all the time you spent at camp, and I can imagine the thousands upon thousands of wonderful ripple effects of your impact there and in every chapter of each of our lives. And I think now for me it's about harvesting. Like, what are all those things that have wrenched each of us into more awareness, more empathy, more agency, more attunement, or whatever each of us has, and how can we just be so joyful in the abundance of what's come from our life story, and then harvest those for good in whatever arenas we're in. And so and the other thing, Cara, is you're just like radiating light, and that's just been delightful. So thank you. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up with Sheila.
Thank you. Cara, I was really struck by the power of how you chose time and time again to be an adventurer and a learner, an experimenter. And you said a couple of times to be of service to others on their journey, and the power of that choice to move away from stigma. I think about like the land of misfit toys, kind of labels of like, oh, you don't fit perfectly in this box or this box. But what I was concluding in my reflections of what you shared is that you're serving others in a way like that unconditional love that you described your dog giving to you. And so I appreciate your story, and I appreciate that you shared that level of detail with us. It was really informative and helpful for me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are coming to the allotted time that we have, but Cara, anything you'd like to add, questions or thoughts or anything that's coming up for you at this point as we begin to close out?
I feel relief. I haven't slept well the last couple nights. I've been really nervous about this in a way that I'm not usually about work stuff. It felt really vulnerable, and it also felt like I was breaking some really strong family rules to do this.
Mm.
So it felt like old rules that I was breaking. And I woke up this morning with sweaty hands and I feel relieved. Y'all didn't just hang up when I started talking and bail. It's a really interesting experience, really lovely experience. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cara, for the vulnerability. Anything, Cara, you want us to share connections with the work that you're doing, be it through your work or your odd, anything that if we want to know more about some of these things that you'd like to share so we can continue this community building
Yeah,
beyond.
I'm happy to be a resource. I know that my friend Megan and I are developing a workshop on coaching in autism. And I know there's other stuff out there, but we're I'm just starting to learn in this space. People have been kind of writing me for a couple of years about what my niche is going to be, and I have been very resistant to that. And I am like, oh, it's this. This is it. This is it. So I don't know what that looks like yet, but we're figuring it out.
Absolutely.
I have lots of resources. If you're curious about yourself or someone you love, I have actually wrote something up because I get asked about it enough that I have lots of resources.
Can you make sure we know how to get in touch with Cara?
Yeah, Cara, if you're okay with that, I can share
Yeah,
your
I'll just put it. I'm putting it in here. Here's my email address.
Right. We're wrapping it up, but I see Betsy, your hands up. Do you want to add something?
Yes, I have a connection with a group called Spectrum, which is for autism. And I'm wondering if you think you must be pretty high up on the spectrum to coach people with autism. Cara,
Yeah. I'll just answer this quickly. I know Jeff was trying to move us somewhere, but I will say we don't typically talk about spectrum as like high or low, and it's not even really a line of like a less autistic to more autistic. It's more like a constellation with things that spike out all over the place. People are I am like a well-resourced, low support needs autistic person. So some people have more support needs and are less resourced. And I will say that I was good at working with autistic people before I knew that they were autistic people and before I knew that I was an autistic person. So there's a saying, which is if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person.
Yeah.
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 Great. Well, thank you again, Cara, for your journey, your authenticity, your vulnerability. I mean, it's the word that comes to me is aliveness. Aliveness really is sharing the joys, the sorrows, all the tough pieces that we're going through. I really get aliveness from you as I have for many, many years. So thank you for being here with us, for being a good friend, and for all the great work you've done and will do in the future. Thanks to all of you. I'll put it out there again. Please stay connected. You don't have to wait monthly to connect. If you've connected with somebody you want to stay connected with, share your information. Build community every time you get together. And don't wait to be invited. Start inviting people to join you. Is another piece that we go forward. So we love to stay connected. We will be reaching out anybody that wants to share their story. We all have a story to tell about our journey. And we want to continue this gathering as we move some things forward. So if you have yourselves or others you would feel that would want to participate as a storyteller, please let Maya know about that, and we will move things forward. So thank you all for your time, your energy, your belonging, and your community. and for all of your humanness. So, as Peter admit, many of it, we are all flawed humans. The key thing is that we're humans and we move forward. So, thank you, partner Maya. It is good to be back with you in the seat. And thanks again for everybody that has joined us today. Bye bye.
Thanks so much,
Take care,
Cara.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Cara.
Yeah.